the candidates here. We have nearly all the candidates here, so it should be a really interesting forum for everyone. And like I say, we'll start promptly at 7, so in about a minute, we'll get started. So candidates, get yourselves squared away and comfortable, and then we'll start.
So they have 1.5 for intros.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And 1 for questions.
Mm-hmm.
And 1.5 again for closing, or just 1 for closing? Okay. Okie dokie. Intro, I'm gonna have to be better at my timer, at my stopwatch.
All right. Well, according to our timekeeper, it's 7 o'clock, so we'll get started. And candidates, I don't know if you're looking at this, but we have a nice group of attendees right now at this point, 24. So maybe more will be joining us. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thompson School District Board of Education Candidate Forum. My name is Marge Norskog, a member of the League of Women Voters of Larimer County. I am tonight's moderator. This Zoom webinar is being hosted by the Loveland Public Library. Voters look forward to these forums because they get a chance to hear directly from each candidate about where they stand on the issues that matter. Invitations were sent to all candidates less than a week after the Colorado Secretary of State finalized the ballot. And 5 weeks later, here we are. Despite giving as much notice as possible under the election calendar, two candidates have notified the league they're unable to participate. Missing tonight from District B is Deborah Vincino, and from District F is Lisa Winborn. Fortunately, there are other resources to learn about candidate positions. The league recommends our nonpartisan website vote411.org. On the vote411.org website, you can compare the responses written by each candidate in a unique side-by-side format that makes it easier to choose between candidates. Like vote411.org, this forum is committed to being nonpartisan because the League is a nonpartisan organization. An important League mission is to impartially educate voters about the candidates on their ballots. Therefore, this forum is structured to ensure all candidates have equal time and opportunity to speak. Here is tonight's format. This event is not a debate. It is an opportunity for each candidate to express their opinion uninterrupted on questions submitted from the community in Loveland and League members. These questions are screened by the League to avoid duplication. Our timekeeper is Jody Deshen. Candidates should watch for her prompt, letting them know when they have 15 seconds to finish. Should time run out, Jody will show the stop sign, and then your mic, and then we ask that you finish that sentence, but your mic could be muted after that point. We will begin with each candidate giving a 1.5-minute introduction, and then the forum begins. Fitting in as many questions as we can, candidates in rotating starting order will have 1 minute to answer. At the end, each candidate in reverse order of the introductions will have 1 minute for a closing statement. So let's begin the introductions. Starting with Amy Doran for District B. Please tell us, candidate Doran, why you are running to become a member of the school board and share the skills and experience you will bring to the board.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting this. Appreciate the League of Women Voters and the Loveland Public Library for hosting this meeting. I think it's real important that we get to see and speak to the voters. I'm honored to be here. My name is Amy Doran, and I am running for District B. for the Thompson School District Board of Education. I am a parent of a TSD fourth grader who has been in Thompson since kindergarten. I'm also a licensed foster parent, and I've had many youth placed in my care who have been in the Thompson School District as well. I'm very active as a volunteer in the Thompson School District with PTA, SAC, TSD community events in general as over the last 5 years. I recently, District B seat was vacant, and I recently applied for that vacancy. I had a public interview by the board, and I was appointed on September 22nd. So I'm a current board member. I've had the opportunity to meet the cabinet, and I truly appreciate the many complex issues that school board members face. I'm a longtime resident. I've lived up here for 28 years, and my time's up.
Thank you, candidate Doran. Next, Jarrett Roberts for District C. Yes.
Thank you for having us here tonight. This is an important forum where we can discuss the issues that are facing all of us in the school district. My name is Jarrett Roberts, and I started this journey 5 months ago when the seat became open in District C. I applied for the position because I am a parent of 2 students at Mountain View High School, and I felt I could bring my financial, business, and data analytics acumen to the board. I have been a certified public accountant for over 20 years. My focus is on student success and making sure that every student and their unique needs are met. I also want this district to be a go-to district for teachers, parents, and students. Right now, we're still a pass-through district for much of our teachers, and I want to help change this. I started this journey 5 months ago, and I'd like to be elected to finish the job with a 2-year term and finish out what was started. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, candidate Roberts. Next, Nancy Rumfelt for District C. Oh. You're muted, Nancy.
So thank you for hosting this forum so that voters have an opportunity to learn more about us. My bio is on their website, so you can learn about my background and family. Every year, the district spends more money on new ideas, new programs, and curriculum, and yet kids are still not proficient in reading or math. How many kids do not achieve their dreams because we failed to provide a classroom focused on high academic standards taught by highly qualified teachers? We are losing teachers, not just to other districts, but to other professions. We can do better, we must do better. I will use my experience in leadership, problem solving, and strategy to help create an environment where asking what if is embraced and no one is afraid to ask the tough questions to discover what the problem is, what the root cause is, and what the best solution is. I don't know all the answers. I do know that if we don't ask the questions, we don't explore new ways, if we don't talk and listen, then we will never find solutions that pay teachers and staff better and help every child learn to the best of their ability. Children are the future of America, and I am running to ensure kids receive a quality education and to make the Thompson School District a great place to work and learn. And I'm honored to earn your vote if I can. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Rumfelt. Next, candidate Blake Law in District E.
Again, thank you for having us all. My name is Blake Law. I've lived in Loveland for a couple of years now. We moved from Fort Collins and before that, I lived on Maui, Hawaii, with my family. I have 4 children. Am I a little bit quiet?
Yes, we lost your sound, but why don't you start again?
Okay. Let me move a little bit closer to the microphone. So my name is Blake Law. I've lived in Loveland for a couple of years. I have 4 small children that would be in the district, but we pulled them out this year for a variety of reasons. And my wife is homeschooling them at this time. And things that I would bring to the board: a dedication to the parents in the community. When I started this journey, it was just a small little thought in the back of my head. What if I ran? And as I spoke at the school board meetings and spoke at gatherings of other parents, I felt an immense surge of energy and power coming from the parents who were both scared and outraged and had a deep concern for their children's welfare inside the system. And that pressure grew and grew until I decided that somebody had to stand up and do something. And in this journey, I've knocked on thousands of doors. I've talked to so many of the parents in our community. And the issues that they bring up are pretty much along the same lines. They're hot button issues that we all know, and I'm sure we'll talk about tonight. But I have the opinions of the parents seared into my mind. I can't let them down. And I will absolutely pay attention to the parents who make up this school district because they care so much about their children. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Law. Next, Alexandra Lessam for District E.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Again, thank you very much to Gwen and to Jody and to Marge from the League of Women Voters for hosting us tonight. And thank you to Amy Phillips from the library for providing our technology. Thank you to my other candidates for being here. It's really great to have this opportunity to talk and hear from you. And thank you very much to all of you out there in the cyber space to tuning in and listening. It's wonderful to have interest in the school board race. I have been in Loveland since 2004. I have 2 children in the district who have been in public schools since kindergarten and are currently in 8th grade and 10th grade. I have been an active parent and volunteer in the schools throughout their time there on different levels, hearing and vision screening and field trips and the school store and all kinds of things. I am a nurse and a nurse practitioner currently with a lot of healthcare experience. And I took the opportunity this year to step up into a more public role in the schools rather than a behind the scenes volunteering role, because I believe very strongly in our public schools for providing a great education to all of our students. And I think I am somebody who can help that to happen and help the school district to move forward with a world-class education that meets the needs of every student in our district. So thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Lessam. And finally, our last speaker will candidate with her intro will be Barbara Cruz in District F. Barbara, we can't hear you.
Won't go on. There we go. I got it. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I so appreciate the forum and the opportunity to share our thoughts, and appreciate the League of Women Voters and the organization they've had, how they've kept us well informed on what was going on. I am a former teacher within Thompson School District. I taught in the classroom 30 years, 29 years. And then I went on to do some professional development for the district, and then was a consultant for a publishing company, and then a adjunct professor over at University of Northern Colorado in the reading department. My passion and love is in Loveland as far as wanting Thompson to be the best that it can possibly be. I have had the students at the center of my life for nearly 50 years and feel very strongly that we are on a path of moving forward with a big hiccup when we hit COVID and kind of took us, the sail out of our wind, the wind out of our sail as far as what we were able to do during that time. I feel like we are really back on track and moving forward. We have so many things in place. I can't imagine not being able to complete 4 more years. I have the opportunity to be on the district for 4 more years, and I just feel like there's so much that we're in the middle of working on, and that's so much that I can offer our district.
Thank you. Thank you, Candidate Cruz. So just before we start into our questions, I just thought I'd let everyone know we've got 37 people watching the forum tonight. So that's good attendance. So we should all feel good about that. And this is a good, so people are interested in what's happening here. So the first question, and I'm going to start with candidate Jarrett Roberts. So Jarrett, the first question to you. What is the #1 challenge facing Thompson School District, and how would you work to solve it?
We've got quite a few challenges, but besides COVID, I think the biggest challenge we've got right now is support for our teachers. We've got a teacher shortage, and within the next year or a couple of years, it's only going to get worse. We have individuals not only leaving the profession, but they are also not going into the profession. I would propose that we not just look at salary. Salary is a very important part of any profession and keeping people, but also other means like a subsidy for housing or looking at smaller classrooms. But at the very end of the day, we need to support our teachers and make this a go-to district. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Next, Nancy Rumfelt, District C.
Yes, I would say that the biggest challenge right now is trust. There is a deep lack of trust, not just among parents and community members, but also with staff and teachers. For the teachers, I think it's a lot of distrust or disbelief that the district will ever be able to do anything to improve their pay. But beyond pay, there is also work-life balance and just working conditions. Too many teachers are working overtime, which bleeds into their ability to have a work-life balance. And they need that. They need to feel like we take it serious, that we will address that. And then for parents, there's a lack of trust in regards to that the board is actually listening to them and believes what they say. I have seen too many times parents not believed when they come to the board with issues or concerns. And so I would say trust, and the board is going to have to work long and hard on that by listening and asking lots of questions.
Thank you. Next, Blake Law in District E.
Play on some of what Nancy said, I think one of the major issues, or at least in my view, is communication. I looked through my email when I started this journey and found that the Thompson School District had sent me hundreds of emails, but only in 2 of those emails did it ever come up that I should respond back with how I think they're doing. It wasn't a, hey, we have a hard situation here, what's your opinion? It's, how do you think we're doing about this or that? And so with no effective forum to communicate with the board, we all know that when the school board meets, there's a public opinion section, a public comment section that is not taken very seriously because the answers are already made up. Anyway, I think that communication between the parents and the board should be sought after, and that information that's gleaned from the parents needs to weigh in heavily at the district level.
Thank you. Next, Alexandra Lessam, District E.
Thank you. I think there are several challenges. To me, I think the biggest challenge at this point, and what's very important, is ensuring that there is a opportunity for all students to really excel and to succeed within the school. Many of our students do fabulous and get a really superb education. But a lot of our students are falling through the cracks. I've heard from many parents about special needs students in particular that have a lot of challenges, and parents are very frustrated with that. And so I think that's something that's very important, and really just sort of raising the bar for everybody so that it's not only our top students that are doing well and graduating with great chances for success, but making sure that all students really have that opportunity from whatever background they come from or whatever language they speak at home, that they can all succeed and really graduate with the skills they need to advance in their education or in their career.
Thank you. And next, Barbara Cruz in District F.
Okay, thank you. There are many challenges that the board faces throughout the school year. All of those that have been mentioned are possibly pieces that we have to worry about. One of my biggest challenge, I think, is the social and emotional well-being of both our students and our employees. And I think with the students, it's taking time to make sure that we honor what their needs are, really listen and get to know them as individuals so that they can move forward and feel confident in the learning that they're going to be working with, but also for the employees, making sure that we are able to address a balance in their life, but also allow them to have some time for the professional development and continued learning that needs to happen along with it. And that's what we're trying to work with. So there's a lot with the social, emotional needs of everybody.
Sorry, thank you. Finally, Amy Doran, District B. Doran, I'm sorry, I apologize. Amy Doran.
Yeah, Doran. So yes, I would think that the biggest challenge right now facing the school board and the district is not only teacher attraction and retention, but paras, aides, support staff, specialists, where, we had a problem before COVID and COVID has just exacerbated that. So it will take creative solutions, partnering for housing and childcare, and of course, advocating at the state level for funding for salaries and hourly wages for these support staff positions and the specialty positions. That way teachers can be focused on teaching in the classrooms and the students can be getting the supports that they need. And again, getting the teachers and the support staff, the tech and the supplies that they need. And again, professional development as well. And creating a community for teachers and staff to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so a new question, and we'll start with Nancy Rumfelt, District C. Nancy, what can be done to encourage civil discourse at school board meetings while allowing all voices to be heard? Nancy, you're muted.
There we go.
Oh, okay, now we'll start.
Sorry. I think the biggest thing is we need to set the bar so that it applies the same to everyone. I understand emotions are running high, especially when things build up to a boiling point and when parents don't feel heard or teachers don't feel heard or community members. However, I think it's important that we set the tone that the board meetings are a place of government business and policy setting, and we do want to hear from everybody. However, I do remember a time where no clapping, no response, because and even at the city council, it's done the same. And I know there's people that support me that would be like, oh, Nancy, but it's a place where we have to do government business and there does have to be some decorum. I have been to the state capitol when you speak there and when you watch the sessions, and there very much is a certain amount of respect and decorum, and it's got to be applied to everybody.
Thank you. Next, Blake Law.
Yeah, my answer to that is very simple. I believe that the school board needs to put surveys out to every single parent, teacher, and staff in the entire district who have hot button issues come up, so that every single person who that decision would affect had a chance to weigh in. The survey would read something like, we at the school board want to make sure that we represent all voices. Here are some issues that are coming up that are polarizing. Here are 5 or 3 or whatever possible solutions that we want to present. Which solution works the best for you, Marge? How many times in your history have you got an email like that as a mother? I don't know of any that have ever come to me. And then the results of that survey need to be immediately published back to every recipient of this survey so they know exactly the voice of the community. And if it's an 80-20 split, the compromise better be weighted to show an 80-20 split. We need compromise. We need to know what other people are saying. And if we fail to do that, we're not representing our constituents.
Thank you. Next, Alexandra Lessam.
Thank you. So I would go back and agree with Nancy. I think that public comment is very important. And I think that there should be decorum, absolutely. When she spoke about the state capitol, that really triggered something in my mind, because that's an amazing place and to be there is great. I think there should be rules in place that outbursts are not allowed, that signs are not allowed, that it's a place to share your opinions respectfully, and those opinions will be heard respectfully as well. I think that also it goes to teaching our students and teaching all of us about how to engage civilly. It's fine to disagree. It's normal and it's natural and it's absolutely appropriate and wonderful to disagree. But we all need to practice doing that in respectful and civil ways, that we can get our points across without shouting and without insults and without things like that. And so I think it's a great opportunity to educate ourselves as board members, to educate our community who wants to share their opinions, and to set an example for our students who are really watching what we are doing, and we can show how it can be done in a nice way and how we can meet the needs of everybody without devolving into chaos and dissension and insults.
Thank you. Barbara Cruz, District F.
Okay, it's an interesting question, having sat through the last few board meetings and felt the uncomfortable situation that we found ourselves in. I think that decorum is critical. I think also consideration of maybe having us make it clear what expectations are up ahead of time, so that if there is disruption, they'll be invited to leave, especially if there's a speaker that's speaking. So I think we just have to model for the students that are there, because oftentimes we have students at the board meeting, and just set an example to show them what we would expect. It's what we would expect in our classrooms. We wouldn't expect our students to behave like this in the past, the past few meetings in our classrooms. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, is just remember the respect. Bullying doesn't get us anywhere. So just modeling respect for our students.
Thank you. Next, Amy Doran. Sorry.
Doran.
Doran, my apologies.
Just right, D-O-R-I-N, Doran. But it's A-N. So yes, I have pondered this question a lot. I think that the board has remained tremendously gracious in allowing the extended public comments that they have. And that's what they are at the board meeting. It is not a time for engaging in a discussion. It is public comment. And I think sometimes that's people feel frustrated because they feel that they're not being heard, but it's public comment. It is not time for a discussion. So again, I think we need to go back to the ground rules of what the purpose is of public comment. It is not to engage or to say, hey, I hear you. it is just that. It is public comment that goes on record. And again, we need to get back to model our children and our students the proper way to act in public and how to treat people. Because certainly if children, students were speaking like this, we would all have issue. So thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Jarrett Roberts, District C. You're muted. Still muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you. This is a very interesting question. And when I started 5 months ago, I had no idea what I'd be getting myself into. What we have seen has been, shall we say, very interesting. And I've actually thought a lot about this. One thing I did find is that Brown University back in June actually studied this, board meetings and how public comment is structured. What they found was that there is more public engagement. Instead of a one-way public comment, you have a two-way forum. That's been done in other districts. It's something I think we should think about doing here, because having two teenage boys, I know if they don't think I hear them, they raise the volume and they keep ramping it up. We have heard the public, and I think a forum might be a good addition to public comment.
Thank you. So a new question, and Blake Law, District E, will start off. This question is, what do you think our school district can do to increase inclusive practices to better meet the needs of all learners, especially those protected by the Individuals with Disabilities Act?
Well, I have one of my children with an IEP and another with a 504. So I've been down this road a bit. It was an immense battle to get those special programs in place for my children. We asked multiple times and we were flat ignored until we actually CC'd some of the administration in an email to ask for them, and then a little bit started happening. So one of the things that we can do is make the process very clear. In order to get special accommodations, you have to put everything in writing. A phone call will not suffice, first of all. Second, I think one thing that we can do is outline a plan that covers dyslexia. We found that dyslexia was a word that was not spoken about in the school district. When it was something that was affecting our children, they wouldn't even say the words at the planning meeting. And it's a huge problem. Sorry.
Thank you. Next, Alexandra Lessam, District E.
Hi, thank you. I think to increase inclusive practices, there's for students with disabilities, and there's many different types of disabilities. Dyslexia is one, but then physical and emotional and educational learning disabilities. There are different ways. One, physically, we need to make sure that the schools are accessible to people who cannot easily walk in or out. I think, as Amy had talked about, paraprofessionals are huge in assisting our special needs students to make sure that the teachers have the support that they need to provide education to the classroom as a whole, and that the students with special needs get that extra added help without being an undue burden on the teacher. So that's something I think is really important. And I think listening to our community members who have these students there to hear what they have to offer and ideas and suggestions that they have, I think is also very important. And that is something I would seek to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Barbara Cruz, District F.
Thank you. This is one of the biggest issues I think that we have worked and tried to address when we put together our equality and diversity policy that we created last year, and the fact that it was targeted towards making sure that all students are able to feel safe, that they are honored in their school whether it's in their classroom or among their peers, that they have peer support, that they that the teachers have an understanding and really are able to take time to get to know the students. So in order to meet the needs of all students, whether it is special disabilities or any other specialty that they have, it's just a matter of making sure that we honor and help other kids as well understand that everybody has their differences and everybody has certain needs that need to be addressed in order to be able to continue learning. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Amy Doran, District B.
So yes, again, I think it comes down to in order for the students who have the 504 or the IEP for their needs to be met, again, it's hiring those support staffs. And again, we are faced with a really tight budget. School finance is beyond complicated, and we are beyond low on the funding side of things. So we really need to examine the school funding and how to get invested paraprofessionals in there. I think that meeting those kids with the 504s and the IEPs in the classroom to have that site-based learning one-on-one is important. It models equity and inclusiveness to the other students in the classroom. So keeping those kids for their supports in the classroom as best as we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Jarrett Roberts, District C.
Yes, thank you. My experience as a parent, my youngest son, when he was at Mary Blair Elementary, he was identified as having a reading problem and was put on an IEP. The team, led by the assistant principal and Valerie Black, the principal, I was very impressed with what they did. They not only identified him, they came to us and they helped us get him the help he needed. If this isn't being done at the rest of the schools, we should make sure that what Valerie Black and her team did at Mary Blair should be rolled out to the other schools. I'm also very impressed with what Ferguson High School has done, and also our Thompson Career Campus. Both those are great programs, and I would take those as models to roll out to the rest of the district.
Thank you. And finally, Nancy Rumfelt, District C.
Yes, since knocking on doors, I have heard from various parents of special needs kids their frustration that there never seems to be the money to help their kids, and they wonder where it goes. I would also ponder that question because I know that from 2015 to this year, the budget has increased $50 million while the number of students has remained relatively flat. So we need to talk to the parents. We need to make sure that we are spending the money on the appropriate things in the budget and that it reflects the priorities. Student learning should be a priority, as well as ensuring students with special needs are a priority. Some of this stuff that involves around equity and just teaching kids how to treat each other, respect and everything, I'm not certain that that's a good use of district resources and money, because that is all about common sense and just common decency.
Thank you. So we have another question, and it actually follows on nicely with some of the dialogue that we've had already. Alexandra Lessam, you'll take this to start. What strategies would you use to recruit and retain skilled educators, bus drivers, and all support staff?
So I think there are a lot of different interesting strategies. I've been reading about this and doing some research as well, trying to look at what other districts have done. I think pay obviously is a huge one, and increasing that if possible, but again, challenging. I think looking at ways to make sure that their needs are met in other ways, whether it be through training programs or whether through extra support or through childcare needs or helping support that is important. I think for teachers and for bus drivers and for everybody, I think one of the key things is really promoting a culture of respect and appreciation. As a nurse for many years, that is a huge thing, where nurses and teachers are similar, and we stay where we are respected and where we are treated well. And if we're not, we will leave. And I think really promoting that respect and letting everybody know, whatever level of education they are in, whether they're teachers or bus drivers or cafeteria workers or janitors, that they are appreciated and respected, is a
Thank
huge
you.
priority for me.
Thank you. Next, Barbara Cruz, District F.
Thank you. I agree with what Alex just said as far as a culture of respect. I talked about in the last question, I talked about honoring everybody. It's the same type of thing. Yes, I'd love to be able to say, hey, we'd like to pay you more, but we can only go as far as the money goes, I guess. We could also consider the working conditions that they're in. If nothing else, the joy of being around kids, making sure that they're respected and that they have this, all of their needs met as well. I think that every district is having trouble with this right now. It's not just Thompson, it's every single district, because there's a teacher shortage that has been coming and coming and coming, and it's here now. And obviously bus drivers as well as every other area. So I think there's just a lot of problem solving, sharing maybe among districts on how they're addressing those needs so that we can come up with a plan that will help us move forward.
Thank you. Amy Doran, District B.
Could you repeat the full question, please?
Yes. What strategies would you use to recruit and retain skilled educators, bus drivers, and all support staff?
Thank you. So yes, I think the hiring practices, maybe we should look at some of the hiring practices, and maybe instead of assuming that a teacher will wear more hats, maybe have some of the support staff when they are hired as, a library tech or a library aide. Hey, would you also consider, doing lunch duty? And sort of that shared job title. And I think that we should look at diversifying the pool of applicants that we bring into our schools. If kids see people who look like them, people who have the same family stories that they have, then that gives kids hope that they could become a bus driver, that they could become a teacher or a principal or a para physical therapist. So thank you.
Good, thank you. So I'm going to change up the order on District C just to give a chance for one to follow the other to change up. So this next question goes to Nancy Rumfelt.
Actually, I didn't have a chance to answer.
No, you, and then I'll have you answer after Nancy,
Oh, okay. Thank
rather
you.
than have you always proceed, Nancy.
Am I good to go?
Yes.
Okay. When it comes to employee satisfaction, pay is important, but it's typically not the only thing. We really need to make sure that we find ways to help them feel that they have a stake and a say in the game. So programs like where if they come up with cost savings, there's some type of recognition and reward monetarily. I've worked at places where management, we would actually get up at Nusa Yoga, we would get up at like 2 or 3 in the morning, go to the plant, and we would actually cook breakfast for all of the staff as they were coming off and going on. They love stuff like that. Give away gift cards for recognition. An employee gives out a hey, great job, thanks for helping me. And now that employee can go get some, $10, $20 gift certificate. But more than that, it's just really making sure that we're competitive with the private market, because that's who we're competing with, and we need to figure out a way to do that.
Thank you. All right. Now, Jarrett Roberts, District C.
Yeah, sorry about that. I thought we were moving on to a new question. I've had experience as a teacher internationally. Out of college, I taught English in the Japanese school districts. And what I have found interesting is the difference in respect in the Japanese culture versus American. In Japan, the students are very respectful. They will actually clean their own school and serve their own lunches. Here, we have a problem with respect. We have a teacher shortage, which is similar to the nursing shortage that we had about 20 years ago. I would suggest we take a look at what helped solve the nursing shortage and problems and apply it to the teaching profession.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Blake Law, District D.
Would you mind repeating one more time the full question?
No problem. What strategies would you use to recruit and retain skilled educators, bus drivers, and all support staff?
Well, we live in the age of communication, so it's really easy for people to read back and forth what's happening in other districts. One of the main strategies that I think would be helpful is a recognition program where if any employee from maintenance on up found a way to save the district money, that they would be able to receive a commission back, a 10% or something like that. So for example, if you save the district $100,000, you get paid an extra $10,000 that year because everybody wins. The district saves money, the employee gets a $10,000 bonus, and that can be life-changing money, especially for certain groups of our employees. Another strategy and meaningful recognition is, when was the last time we had an important end of year event, say like a cruise that the entire staff was invited to, that we used the cloud of the district to negotiate a very low price so we could all enjoy our time together. Meaningful recognition is something that just beats in people's hearts. Money is very important. We will look at money, but people need to feel loved and valued and listened to as well.
Thank you. All right, so we're ready for a new question. And we'll start with Barbara Cruz, District F. And the question is, how much oversight should the board have on curriculum choices for science and history classes? And who should oversee the purchase of materials for those subjects?
Repeat one more time. How much oversight on history and
Science
science? Okay.
for curriculum choices,
Mhm.
and who should oversee the purchase of the materials for those subjects?
Okay. Well, I can tell you now that we have every time we are ready for any curriculum change, whether it's history, science, math, whatever, we have a group of teachers along with administrators who begin the process. They do the research, they have some opportunity to pilot those materials in their classroom so that they actually use it and see. They survey the kids, they look at the test results from those surveys that they have, and then it's brought forward to us. It's on display at the public library or libraries. Well, I think we've done it in Berthoud, so it's in different places. And then the board will accept, generally, we just accept the information that comes from the committee. But we have parents on the committee, we have students on the committee, we have teachers that actually practice that content area in selecting this.
Thank you. Next, Amy Doran, District B.
Hi. So yes, to echo what Barb said, we do have I am not a curriculum expert. So we leave that job to the curriculum expert, the teams, the teachers, the administrators who are deep into curriculum, and they have the theory, the understanding about curriculum to make those recommendations. And then my job as a board member is to do the research and to ask thoughtful questions about what has come to what that curriculum team is suggesting. And again, there's community input, teacher input, parent, staff, student input, but we just need to make sure that every decision that we make as board members is what is going to serve the students the best. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, Jarrett Roberts, District C.
Yes, thank you. I want to echo what Barb and Amy said. I would like to add to the process that Barb spoke about. It's a very well-established process of how curriculum is chosen. It's based on state standards, and it's a very long process. It also includes a very important part about public comment. So whether people have children in the schools or not, they can come in and review the textbooks, the curriculum, and they have a chance to comment on it. So it's very much well established. It's what other school districts do, and it's based on state standards. So there's not much wiggle room on this. So thank you.
Thank you. Nancy Rumfelt, District C.
Yes, ultimately, the Board of Education, regardless if they made their decision based on the recommendations of the experts, they are responsible to the voters for every single vote that they make, regardless of how they came to that conclusion. So the onus is on us to make sure that we are voting according on what's best and what we think in our own research. I think that the curriculum, it is guided by state standards. It does fall under the purview of the board to approve, put in place. Is up to the superintendent to implement whatever those recommendations are. I do think in this day and age of technology, we can find a better way to pull in more teacher input and more parent input, because they are all working throughout the day and they are the ones that actually either have to use it or they see how it's impacting or not impacting their kids. We need to do a better job of making sure if curriculum's not working, that we change it faster than we currently are, because that's a big issue.
Thank you. Blake Law, District E.
Yeah, in this topic, I would go back to my policy of a very broad and wide survey that addresses the issue before the board. In this case, it would be curriculum. Several key points about each curriculum that we're looking at, so that we not only have teacher, staff, and expert input, but we have the parent and the community input, because ultimately the curriculum sets the mindset or the paradigm of the child. Because a curriculum can be pushed one way or another depending on personal agenda, personal feelings, political beliefs, and it happens all the time. That's one of the things that so many of the parents are so frustrated about, that their political views or personal views are not being echoed in the curriculum. However, you can't make everybody happy, but at least you can ask everybody and try to find a reasonable compromise so that enough people can support it that you won't have this outrage that I've been feeling.
And finally, Alexandria Lessam, District E.
Sorry, would you mind repeating the question?
No, not at all.
Thank you.
How much oversight should the board have on curriculum choices for science and history classes? And who should oversee the purchase of materials for those subjects?
Okay. So I think on a broad level, I mean, the board in general has a high level of oversight. I think there are processes in place to gather the public input, and I think it is very important to get that input from all areas, from the curriculum experts, from the teachers, from the parents, from the community members. And then I think the board's role, oversight role, is to be that final check, that look, does it meet the standards? Does it educate our students in a complete and truthful and holistic manner? Is it evidence-based? Is it going to produce the outcomes that we're looking for? And if it meets that criteria, and if it's been approved by the general committee and by the thing, then absolutely, I think we should go ahead. If it doesn't, or if we have concerns about it in an area, then maybe we talk about that and find a way to go back. As far as who should be responsible for purchasing the materials, I would think that would be through our budgetary process, that we look at what money we have available and what the curriculums cost, what's the best curriculum we can afford with what we have available.
Thank you. So we'll do one more question and then we'll take a 5-minute break. And in this round, I am going to, just as I did earlier, switch up the starting person on C and also on E, just to warn the candidates how that's going to flow. All right. So this question will start with Amy Doran. And Amy, what concrete steps can the district take to be culturally responsive and ensure that students from all backgrounds flourish?
Thanks, that's a good question. So yeah, I think some of that comes to our hiring our staff, because again, if kids are able to see themselves and their family stories, their personal stories represented in their teachers and support staff, then that gives students, the drive to achieve. And also, if curriculum is and teaching is representative of our student population, student needs, student backgrounds, then it's also proven that test scores, learning retention is higher, and therefore when students see themselves in the education, they are more invested. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, Nancy Rumfelt, District C.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. What concrete steps can the district take to be culturally responsive and ensure that students from all backgrounds flourish? Could you hear that okay? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I think this goes back to maybe there might be some philosophical differences here. I do think it's important that the classroom is a safe and welcoming environment for all students. I'm not certain though that we need to be, or we should be investing so much money in the DEI programs where it almost feels like we're highlighting the differences more than we are highlighting the ability to unite. I'd like to see more focus on uniting rather than diversity. And I know that that may sound confusing, but when we look at everybody and we say, oh, hey, you're white, you're black, okay, cool. Let's go out and play in the merry-go-round. There, you're just simply teaching kids to recognize there are differences. Let's go unite and play. And I think that goes a long ways into creating an environment of respect, kindness, love, understanding, so that children are motivated to learn.
Thank you. Jarrett Roberts, District C.
Yes, thank you. This is a very important question because every student is unique and has special needs. The times are changing. Things are changing very quickly. Not every student is going to go to college, or do they want to? Every student needs to have their goals and dreams supported. I think that technical career education is very important, and what the school district is doing with Thompson Career Campus is an outstanding example of how diversity based on student achievement and goals is something that can be accomplished. As I said, every student is unique, and we need to value those differences and help each one succeed.
Thank you. Next, Alexandra Lessam, District E.
Yes, so I think there are many steps we can take to be culturally responsive. One of the first one, I think it's important to acknowledge that there are different cultures and different backgrounds. I know that sounds sort of simple, but not everybody celebrates the same holidays. Not everybody comes from the same place, and just acknowledging that these other things exist, I think, is a big first step. And I know we do that, but it could be broader for sure. I think looking at ways we can teach about other cultures in a fun, in a good way. One thing, when I was teaching art in an after-school program many years ago, I did a program, we did art projects from around the world, and it was awesome. We made Japanese fish kites from Japan, and we made different types of noisemakers from South America. And the kids loved it. And it was really a great way to engage people and make everybody aware of other cultures, and let them know that the way we do it is not the only way, and we can be open and accepting of other ways and have fun learning about them.
Thank you. Blake Law, District E.
Yeah, you asked for concrete steps. I would say yes. The liaison, someone whose specific job is to make sure that every single student, teacher, and staff feels unified with each other. Our community is tearing apart at the seams. I mentioned earlier, I've knocked on thousands of doors and spoke to countless parents and people who are older, who didn't have children in the district, people who are younger. And this is the topic that everybody wants to talk about. They want to talk about how the school district or anybody else is highlighting differences. And it's tearing people apart. It's tearing families apart. It's tearing communities apart. We need to focus on unity by hiring a unity liaison who goes through every program to make sure that we are looking for things that bring us together with love and compassion and understanding in our school district.
Thank you. And Barbara Cruz, District F.
Thank you. I think what's really important is, yes, our community is a little bit divided right now. That is not the direction that we are working at going. And when I talk about our diversity and equity policy, the whole purpose of it is bringing us back together, helping us understand that every one of us is unique and different. There's no way we're all going to be the same. We have cultural background differences. We have interests that are different. We have special needs that we have sports that are variations of what everybody's interested in, whether it's art, doesn't matter. So what we have to really work on is, our first step is accepting that there isn't one way to be. There isn't one way to do things. And it's to understand that we need to value everybody regardless of who they are, what they are, where they're from. It's just everybody deserves that.
Thank you. So thank you, everyone, for your focused attention and staying on time. And we're going to take a 5-minute break, and hopefully the 38 people watching tonight live will be back with us when we come back in 5 minutes. Here. All right, so we pick up again with more questions, and we'll start this question with Jarrett Roberts in District C. So Jarrett, please give your thoughts on whether instruction relating to news media literacy should be included in the school curriculum.
Absolutely. I think it's one of the biggest problems as a culture we have now is news literacy and social media. I remember growing up, and I hate to say it, it was late 20th century, shall we say, before the internet. Our kids are being inundated with social media. We've seen recently in the news, Facebook and their algorithms, and how they are putting profit over the safety of our kids on not only Instagram, but Facebook and all the others. So absolutely, it needs to be a part of the curriculum, part of the discussion, and part of how we deal with electronics in our life, and how we move forward with the technology we have.
Thank you. Next, Nancy Rumfelt, District C.
I do not believe that news media literacy should be taught in the schools. I think it's great for college level, not for K through 12. The issue with news literacy is kids are very impressionable in middle school and high school. And so it is also too easily swayed towards one political narrative and another. Who's going to decide what's fake, what's real? How are we going to teach them what's right, what's wrong, how to decipher that? I think we should focus first on making sure kids are capable of having literacy skills, period. News media is later in life. When you're a little bit more grown, you're a little bit more adult, have your own opinions, a little more grounded, like college. So I do not think news media literacy is an appropriate class for K through 12.
Thank you. Next, Blake Law, District E.
Yeah, news literacy. I think the root of this question is political bias. As we all know, the news is very biased politically. You can choose one side or the other, and who knows what's actually going on. It's probably somewhere in between. And I think we can all agree on that. The issue is just like what Nancy said, if we have somebody dictating what literacy is and what news is or is not biased or true, then really we're putting politics in our classroom when we should be focusing on literacy, arithmetic, core knowledge, things like that. I would encourage everybody here to take a look at Loveland Classical and how they approach media and how many screens they actually have in their room. I think you'll find that they have an extremely effective curriculum with very little screen time.
Thank you. Alexandria Lessem, District E.
Yes, I think that news media literacy is incredibly important and should be taught at all ages. All ages are exposed to the media. And of course, while kindergartners probably don't have much of a grasp of it, high schoolers absolutely do. And many high schoolers are starting to vote. We have 18-year-olds who are in high school, and they should absolutely be aware of how to sift through all the vast amounts of information that come through us. And I know that we are doing this already. My kids have come home with lessons on how data is displayed differently in charts, and how charts can be manipulated to prove pretty much any point. You can change the scale, you can change anything. And I think being able to look at look at news articles, look at any number of things and be able to see what is the truth in the middle, as Blake says, I think is very important skill to learn pretty much once you start getting this information.
Thank you. Barbara Cruz, District L.
Okay. Thank you. Well, the news media is the real world that we are in right now. It's where we are. And a part of the standards, the Colorado standards, the national standards, are that students be able to think and apply the learning that they've had and make good decisions. Critical thinking. Those are all pieces that are part of what we want our students to be able to do. Critical reading, being able to look at an ad they see, whether on TV or on their device, and being able to determine what's it really asking me to do? What's it really telling me? The internet, it's our life right now, and it's not going to change in that aspect. We just need to help them learn how to make good decisions and move forward with all of the information that comes running in at them.
Thank you. And Amy Doran, District B.
So yes, I think that news literacy in the media should be taught. We are raising our kids in this instant gratification, that they don't even need to walk over to the encyclopedia or find the correct encyclopedia or the dictionary to look something up. They can have the answer in 20 seconds or less. And to me, news literacy is the ability to determine what is a credible source. So it's not to change a student's point of view or their beliefs. It's just to teach them how to decipher fact from fiction, to fight misinformation, and the ability to be smart and active consumers. of news and information that they get. And because they're going into a global society, and so they need to be able to determine what is credible and not credible, because as what Alexandra said, you can flip data to make it anything. Thank you.
All right, a new question. And Nancy Rumfelt, we'll start with you. And here's the question. What is your plan for long-term growth, especially when it comes to closing neighborhood schools? Yes, Nancy.
So for the long-term growth plan, I know that it's always difficult to close neighborhood schools. So I think that's where we have to look carefully at what are the demographics, trying to see what's coming in the future. And sometimes, you know, the crystal ball is not right. I know that Skip Peterson over the years has tried to do his best in predicting what those growth patterns look like. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not. I do think we should always be looking at, are there better ways to utilize buildings, maybe sell some of the older ones, and we're better off building a new one because the old ones require so much maintenance and upkeep that we'd be literally better off to scrape it off and start over, and or sell it, the land, and then find a new location where we can build new with ventilation, air conditioning, everybody, and the latest technology.
Thank you. Alexandria Lessam, District E.
Thank you. So I think this is a very important and very challenging question. I think people, you know, really are committed to their neighborhood schools. And I know there was a lot of heartbreak and still is a lot of heartbreak when those schools like Van Buren are closed. And it's hard. Our population is spreading sort of from the center to the different areas. And so sometimes that does mean closing schools that are no longer financially viable. And as Nancy said, it is makes more sense to build a new school where the population is, which we've seen and which we've done with High Plains and with, oh, I forget the name of the brand new one, I'm sorry, in Johnstown. It'll come to me when I'm done talking. And I think it needs to be looked at in a holistic manner, look at modeling as far as where the population growth is going and supporting the schools that we have, but not being too attached to things when we need to grow and need to change in a way that meets the needs of our whole community.
Thank you. Blake Law, District E.
So we have about 16,000 students in our district. I did an extensive interview over at Loveland Classical Charter School. And one of the things that we could do is encourage the charter model. They take on about 1,000 students, and out of 16,000, that's a pretty big percentage. One of the nice things about the charter school model is it has some open market aspects to it. They have to perform or people don't take their children there. And we don't have to maintain the building if it is a charter school because they get the stipend from the number of students. And from that point, they get to divvy that money out as they see fit. They have excellent test scores. They have excellent results on graduation and administration retention. That would take a lot of the pressure on us if we encourage that model to have more charter schools in our district.
Thank you. Barbara Cruz, District F.
Okay, well, first of all, anytime we've closed a school over the last few years, we did not make those decisions lightly. We had to look at a number of aspects of it. And one of those was the fact that the schools were at 40% or less capacity. When you have to also have this small amount of money that is only set aside for the schools and the heating of them and the electricity and all of the parts of keeping a school open, regardless of whether it's got 40%, it still takes staffing as well. So there's lots of aspects that we have to look at to do that. So we have to really look at where the growth is. And the growth has grown, it's gone in certain areas. So we have to really address those needs. And that's one of the things that's the hardest part, because we all buy into our neighborhood schools and we want to be able to maintain them. But sometimes it just doesn't happen.
Thank you. And Amy Doran, District B.
So this is a tough question. It doesn't make sense. If our population is expanding, why are we closing schools? The model that we have here are neighborhood schools. We have a lot of local schools, and that was good. But, you know, again, the population is changing. The town is growing. The school district is growing. You know, especially south and east, that middle corridor, you know, not so much. But, you know, I think that we need to be respectful when we talk about closing schools, because there are students who are there. There are teachers who have taught there. This school is not just a surplus building, you know, so we need to be respectful of that and creative with our solutions on what do we do, because yes, the cost of running a school, but we look at what we did with Van Buren. Ferguson has a home now. We repurposed Van Buren to Ferguson and the career tech. So I think we can be creative with partnerships and moving forward.
Thank you. And Jarrett Roberts, District C.
Thank you. 5 months ago, I thought this was going to be the hot topic button. I've been kind of surprised, but this is one of the most important topics we have as a school board. And being the data guy, I'm very interested in the data that we're getting, seeing growth on the east and the south. The school district is, it's part of the growth of a school district that some areas will age out and others will develop. As a parent of a Mary Blair, 2 students, part of me is I would love to have had those stay open, but I understand the need. If there's not enough students in the neighborhood, then we need to do something, and we need to do what's best for the entire school district. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is going to be our last question. And so after this question, then we'll go to closing statements. And for this question, we're going to start with Blake Law. And Blake, here is the question. How do you think the quality of public education in Colorado will be impacted? Oh, scrap that. That's not what I wanted to ask. Let's see. No, that's right. I'm sorry.
You got me confused.
I know. Start over, clean slate. How do you think the quality of public education in Colorado will be impacted if Prop 119 passes, resulting in the establishment of the new Colorado Learning Authority and Board of Directors?
I wish I was prepared to answer that question, but since I'm not, I'm going to have to refer to research, and if I have a chance to come back.
Thank you. Alexandria Lesson, District.
Yeah. Okay. So Prop 119 I think it would impact education adversely. I am opposed to that proposition. It creates a private network of tutors and diverts funds away from the public school system to pay for these private tutors. The proposition on its face says that it will help low-income students and those left behind by the pandemic to raise the bar. But it's very unclear as far as how it will actually do that and how these low-income students will be prioritized over other students. And so what I fear with that proposition is that if it passes, it will siphon money away from the public schools through taking from the Colorado Land Trust, and it will further spread the divide between our higher and our lower income students, and effectively punish those who are in the public school system and don't have the resources and the ability to take advantage of these out of school private tutoring programs.
Thank you. Thank you. Barbara Cruz, District F.
Having listened to Alexandra, she said it so very well. I think in the long run, it'll take away from those who can and those who can't, I guess is what it's amounting to. It's taking away from the public schools. If they were very clear on how it was going to happen, it would be perhaps more tolerable to listen to. But they don't have that all worked out. So I think that it's going to just impact us, because the money that we would normally be able to use in classrooms to help those students that need that help, whether it's high income, low income, it doesn't matter. They won't have that opportunity because the schools are going to have to cut back.
Thank you. Amy Doran, District B.
Hi. So yes, Proposition 119, I believe it looks good on the surface, but if you really look at it, it's very troubling. We're already very poorly funded, and it will create further inequities, further financial struggles, to an already poorly funded situation. It does not create equity. There is no plan how to, what students are they going to, how are they going to provide these students, these services to the students? But it sounds great to have, some private tutors help these students, who've been affected by COVID and the learning gaps. But I think we really need to look below just the title. I think that can create some real inequities to an already a hard financial situation. So I do not support 119.
Thank you. Jarrett Roberts, District C. Oh, you're muted.
I unmuted and I got muted, so I'm not sure what's happening, but I'm old enough to remember when I was younger, other propositions being sold to the voters, and specifically I'm speaking of Gallagher and Tabor. Both were sold to the voting population that this was going to be good for the taxpayer and also for school districts. Unfortunately, it's made Colorado one of the most underfunded states per capita in the United States. So I'm very, very skeptical about the benefits of Prop 119, and I would have to see more information to be supportive of it. At this time, I don't think it's going to do what it's touted as being good for.
Thank you. I'm going to beg the indulgence and understanding of the candidates. I think we can actually, I'm sorry, Nancy Rumfelt.
Got to answer.
Yes. Nancy, it's your chance to answer.
Okay. So I am also opposed to 119, but for different reasons than everyone else has stated. Marijuana has become the beloved golden goose that's going to cure everything. I'm surprised we haven't decided to do a tax to cure cancer on marijuana. It's just, for that reason alone, I'm against it. I'm also against Prop 119. We do not need any more state level bureaucracies that are going to somehow dole out the money and tell every school district, we know what's best for your schools and your students. School boards are local control for a reason. And so I'm opposed to that. I think student tutoring and some of the issues they talk about are important, and that every school board should find a way to prioritize them in their budget, because the budget is a reflection of the school district's priorities.
Thank you. All right, now I'm going to be, oh, yes, Blake.
I have a chance to answer. My brain skipped on 119 for a minute there, but I have researched.
All right, very good.
Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to mention is that when the Thompson School District approached my own children about their 504 and IEP plans, we were unsatisfied with the results of those accommodations, and we ended up paying for private tutors out of our own pocket. We were lucky enough to be able to be in that situation. However, I would echo what Nancy was saying, that the government rarely gets it right when it tries to dictate what happens on a local level. And so I would be against the proposition, because I think we are perfectly capable of managing our own finances.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we do have time for one more question. And as I was going through the questions that I was given, there was a category that I did not cover. So just to make sure that I cover all the main topics, I've got a question related to COVID. And this question is going to start with Alexandria Lessam, District E. And the question is, should the school board set mask policy for district schools, or should each parent determine whether their child wears a mask to school?
I believe very strongly that the district should set mask policy. I wished that it had been in place from the beginning of the year. As I said, I've been in healthcare for 18 years. I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of this pandemic on young, healthy people out of work for months, thinking they would never get sick and debilitated beyond recognition by this disease, people who have died from it of all ages, and it's been devastating. Also, masks are strongly recommended by all of our public health agencies. And I believe in following the recommendations of our health experts. The health and safety of my patients depend on me absolutely knowing and following these guidelines to a T. And I don't see our public health guidelines as any different than the guidelines I follow every day in providing care for my patients. And so I absolutely support the mask mandate when needed, and when it's able to be lifted, I will celebrate that day with all the rest of us.
Thank you. Thank you. Barbara Cruz, District F.
Thank you. I would also agree with the mask policy. I was regretful that we didn't have it in place when school started. I wished we had, because our numbers went crazy after they had a chance to be together. I feel strongly that this is the one way that we're going to be most likely to be able to keep kids in classroom, in person with a teacher, and opportunities to work with their peers, to do collaboration, to just continue to build on their social and emotional skills that that are so important to them. I think that the wearing of the mask, we were used to it. There was no problem with it last year when the kids were having to wear it, and all of a sudden it became a problem. So I firmly believe that we've made the right choice for now. I look forward to the day when they don't have to wear it, and that we can, as Alexandra said, celebrate that piece. But we're not there yet.
Thank you. Amy Doran, District B.
Yeah, so I strongly support a mask mandate. By profession, I'm a registered nurse. I've been a registered nurse for 22 years. I have a master's in public health. We need to follow the science. The science tells us that masking is a way to keep our community healthy. It's not about me. I don't mask for myself. I mask to keep my community healthy. I have been fully vaccinated. I continue to mask. I believe that our children should mask. It's the way that virtual learning didn't go well for anybody. So it is a way to keep us in person, to keep our community healthy and safe moving forward for financial gains for our community. COVID, it was devastating when we had to shut down. I don't want to shut down, but again, I mask. the students should mask, teachers should mask for the health and well-being of our community. It's not about me. It's not about my child. It's about that vulnerable population, and it is about our community health. We talk about being respectful, and that is a way to do it.
Thank you. Nancy Rumfelt, District C. Nancy, you're muted. Okay.
I don't believe that the school board should set the policy, that they should follow the health department policy, and especially the schools should mirror what's happening in the general population. Currently, a child can go to school, mask up, leave the school, go out to dinner with their family, go to some event, and they do not have to mask up. There are many different viewpoints in the medical field on the effectiveness of masks, and that maybe the masks really aren't that effective. It might be more the focus on disinfecting and cleaning. So we have learned a lot about COVID since it began. It is well on its way out to becoming, yes, it's still a very serious disease for some, and for those who have multiple issues, health issues, it will always be an issue, just like the flu is. So I do not believe, I think we should leave it up to the parents, and especially follow science, not politicize science.
Thank you. Jarrett Roberts, District C.
Yes, thank you. One of the things I've heard so much in the last few board meetings is rights. Yes, as Americans, we have an absolute right to freedom of speech, Second Amendment, Third Amendment, all the Bill of Rights. However, as a leader, we have responsibilities on the Board of Education to lead and to keep the teachers and students and community safe. As far as the tools we have, we are limited into what we can utilize during these unprecedented times. Masking was one tool that we were using and has since been shown to be very effective. We can always unmask, and that's one of the things we hired was a pandemic or expert who will lead us and show us when it's safe. Thank you.
Blake Law, District E.
Yeah, masking is a very polarizing issue. And I think where we've gone astray here is we have not listened to the community. I never got that email. No one ever asked me how I feel about asking or how I feel about masking, because we live in the age of information. I read the entire Georgia study that the CDC put out. I would encourage you to read that yourself and look at the modality and how they came to their conclusions. This is an age of a very educated parent and a very educated staff, a very educated group of teachers. If we don't ask them how they feel on the subject, how can we represent them? My stance on mask is this, that we had better ask our community how they feel about it. And if that scope is absolute masking to personal choice on masking and compromises in between, we had better find a compromise that brings our community together, because there are a million different opinions on it, and we need to find unity here. It's tearing us up.
Thank you. All right, so now our time for questions is over, and we will move to the 90-second closing, the minute-and-a-half closing statements. I'm sorry. 1 minute closing statements. My apologies. Those are some notes from a previous forum with different rules. My apologies. So it's 1 minute closing statements. And we'll begin with Barbara Cruz, District F.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I've enjoyed this evening. It's been fun to get to see and listen to the other candidates as they share their views. I guess what I would say is that my experience with Thompson School District and my educational background, plus all the years of working through consultant, visiting other districts, I just feel like I have a knowledge that I can bring into the district that will help make some of the decisions that we have to make. I've been very devoted to Thompson in all of these years. My passion is helping students. I've always worked really hard at getting to know and understand the needs of all the students. And we want to keep the students at the heart of all of our decisions. I've listened to parents, I've talked to community members, and we've all worked to collaborate and make some really strong decisions that move our district forward. And, you know, I don't feel that my job is finished, and I would really love to be able to continue.
Thank you. Alexandria Lessem, District E.
Again, thank you so much to everybody for hosting and for participating and for listening. This has been very enjoyable, and I appreciate the opportunity. I think you've all heard a variety of opinions and ideas on many different issues. I can tell you that I have spent the last 18 years listening to people all day, every day, tell me all kinds of things, and working with them to find a way forward, to find a way to meet their needs and help them live their best lives that they can. And I will continue to do that as a board member. I will listen very, very, very avidly. I will ask many, many questions. I will really seek to understand all aspects of every issue and come up with the best decision for our students and for our schools and for our community. I can't promise that I will always get everything right. I am sure I will not. But I can promise that nobody will work harder than I or will try harder to make the best decisions. And I would very much appreciate your support and your vote in this election.
Thank you. Blake Law, District E.
Yeah, I'm grateful for this opportunity to run. I mentioned earlier that I felt a surge of enthusiasm behind me, and that has been something I've been really grateful for. I've reached out to the community in every way that I can think of, through the newspaper, through knocking on doors, through public forums, and I have a pulse of what's going on out there. And I don't have the list of credentials that would make me want to say, hey, everybody, I know how to fix this. But I do have the willing ear to say, well, what would everybody like to see done in the school? And let's work together as a team to make this happen. This is a community project. The school board is not just a school board, it represents a community. And I can absolutely guarantee that with me on the board, the community will be represented in a way it has never been represented before. So get ready for emails, because I need your voice, I need your opinion to do this effectively.
Thank you. Nancy Rumfelt, District C.
I believe that children are a blessing. My mother, before she passed, she told us all that she believed, we asked her what was the greatest thing on earth, and she didn't say computers or cell phones or any of that. She said children. We have an obligation to ensure that every child receives the best education possible to their ability. And to do that, we need a board that is willing to ask the really hard questions and to lead the way in helping everybody figure out what is really the problem, the root cause, and the solutions. Quite honestly, what I have seen for my entire time here, as my kids even went through this district, the experts do not have it right because the kids are still failing. They're still not proficient in education and math. You really have a clear choice this election. Continue with the way things are, or look for a better new path to ensure the future success of our kids. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jarrett Roberts, District C.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity tonight. In the last 20 years as a certified public accountant, I've learned many things, including analyzing data, financial statements, but the most important thing I've learned is to listen. I'm not the best public speaker, never said I was, but I'm a good listener. That's what I've done, and in the last 5 months, I've spent not only learning the job, but listening to the students, the parents, and the community. I've heard you. If elected, I'd like to fill out the remaining 2 years in the term that was open. And I will continue my listening and my emphasis on making sure this is a district that students, parents, and teachers want to go to and not just pass through. We have a choice to make. Make it a wise one. It's your children's future.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. And our last candidate to give their closing statement, Amy Doran, District B.
Hi, thank you again for having us here for the opportunity. I hope that I've demonstrated my passion and commitment to public education and access, equal access for all, and my dedication to our community. Being a longtime resident of Northern Colorado, active TSD parent, I am deeply invested in the well-being of Thompson School District for our success of our students and for our community. I will listen and be respectful and thoughtful in my words and in my actions. I will show up. I will be a board member with integrity and an example for our students. I have the skills to sort out information, have those hard conversations, and make informed decisions while keeping our students at the forefront of all that I do. I hope that I have earned your vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of everyone here or viewing the recording, we want to thank each candidate for your willingness to express your opinions on the issues in this public, nonpartisan format. This election is important because school board members make decisions that directly affect students, parents, and the community. About voting this year, there have been some changes. There are new ballot drop-off locations. In case you haven't heard, there are no more drop-offs at grocery stores. The county clerk does include a list of all the drop boxes with the ballot in the insert. So please check that out, or you can go to the Larimer County Clerk's website pages at larimer.org. You should have your ballot in the next few days if you don't already. If it doesn't show up by the end of the week, contact the Larimer County Clerk. If you are not currently a voter, know that you can still register and vote, even on election day. If you recently moved to Colorado before October 11th, you can register and vote in this election. If you were convicted of a felony anywhere in the United States and are now on parole or have fully completed your sentence, you can register and vote in this election. And one thing that's great about voting in Colorado, if you register by October 24th, you can still get your ballot in the mail. However, starting October 25th, up to election day, you've got to go find a voter service polling center, and those centers are listed on the county clerk's website. If you would like to share this event, in a few days, a link with the recording of this forum will be on the vote411.org website and the Larimer County League site. And finally, I want to thank the Loveland Public Library for hosting this forum on Zoom. I want to say how much the League appreciates those who are here tonight and those viewing the video. Our democratic system depends on informed and engaged voters. Our system of one person, one vote gives each of us an equal voice. However, only those who actually vote have a say in who are the leaders of our community. Please spread the word about the importance of this election on November 2nd and encourage your neighbors and friends to vote. Good night.